Everybody, I am... Stand by. Okay, I think we have sound now. I think my mic just went out for a minute. Good to be with you all. It is Saturday night on the 27th of April. I don't know if I've ever done a Courtroom Insider on a Saturday, so I guess we could call it special edition. I just had to come on and chat with you tonight, mainly get myself all caught up on everything I missed from this past week. I heard it was a busy week. Heard some stuff happened in court. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Let me know where you are watching from. And apparently my microphone might be a little off. Let me know if that's the case. Hold on one second. I was gone for a week, and stand by, and I'm being told my sound is weird. So just stand by one moment. How about that? I don't know if that did it. Tell me though if you're watching, if that sounds any better. We, while I was gone, Jordan got working on our microphone, got working on our system, and updated some stuff. So this is the first time we've used it. Apologies. Should have done a mic check. I'm being told it's better. How much better? Do I need to tweak or am I good? Let me know, Peggy, if you're watching. People are saying it's a bit better. Should I keep talking or should I sign off? Let me turn down the gain a little bit. Tell me if that is getting any better. Anyway, we're gonna figure this out as we go here. As we let people join us, I'm gonna turn this down, and you know what? Why don't I just... Jordan is live right now on my show.
Yeah, I'm watching it. I think your gain is too high.
Okay, I turned down the gain. Amy's telling me it's much better. Eric's telling me to turn it up a little. Peggy's saying it's better. Should I stop? I'll keep talking. I guess you message me and we'll keep going. People.
Hey, thanks for watching. Appreciate it.
Yes, very much so. Okay. Eric says stop. I'm going to stop. You have kids to take care of, Jordan. Thank you for calling. One day you're going to be here with me side by side and discuss your observations.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, sorry about that. That was the dry run. If you're watching that right now, you get the special edition. No one else in the world got to see that but you and 12,000 other people. Okay, we have a lot to talk about tonight. Erica and I returned late last night from Jamaica. And we had an amazing time. We went to a friend's wedding, and they're very, very, very private people, and I respect that. They work in the industry, in the news industry. They have high-profile jobs. You may have seen them on the news, but they're very private people. So I'm not going to show you photos of the wedding or them, but I do have some photos at the very end that I'll show you if you want to stay tuned. I know one of you emailed me a few weeks ago and said, quit talking about your personal life. Just talk about the case. And that's what I'll do at the end. But I also want to talk about the celebration of life that was today at the Colonial Theater in Idaho Falls. Here's the program. Beautiful celebration of life. And... a lot of speakers there. We'll talk about that and so much that happened at court this week. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. A whirlwind week. I'm still trying to get caught up on everything that happened. I know many of you were paying attention to the details. I'm going to spend the next few nights kind of getting you up to speed if you missed anything. I'm going to talk about some highlights tonight that you may have missed that I think might be pivotal in the case going forward. We have had 30 witnesses so far, if you can believe it. 30. Now, with Lori's case, there were 59 for the prosecution. So that means the prosecution could be halfway done, but there could be different witnesses called or other witnesses that will get recalled. So we are about selection. We've been here 3 weeks, I believe. Let me check. Okay, we have been gone 4 weeks. 4 weeks. So 3 weeks of testimony and 1 week of jury selection. So there's more to it. I want to share with you 5 takeaways from the trial this week. 5 takeaways that I gleaned over the week as I was listening to it. And talk about the celebration of life, as I mentioned. And I have a bunch of questions, so many questions that you all want answered that you have emailed me. And a lot of you are asking about my shirt. This is a shirt we came out with years ago on East Idaho News. It says, "Life goal, keep my mugshot off eastidahonews.com." We sold out of these super fast, but I don't know if you like them. I guess we can maybe order some more and you can get one. Support us. So that's what my shirt says. There we go. It is not my actual mugshot shirt. It's a little fun. If you get your mugshot on East Idaho News and you wear this shirt, we'll do a story on you. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Here we go. Witnesses that we've had this week. This was the busiest week of witnesses so far. I couldn't believe it. I would, log on and see who was testifying, and then a few minutes later, I'd log back on. Okay, I'm still getting questions about the audio. Is the audio still messed up? I'm sorry if it is. I hope you can hear me if it is. I'm being told to turn down this one little thing. Okay. I'm going to keep going, you guys. Sorry. Witnesses this week. So many witnesses this week. Here's who we had. Doug Hart. He finished the Friday before yesterday, so a week ago. And then he was back on the stand Monday. Then we had Sydney Shank, the babysitter. She wasn't on for a long time, but I believe her testimony is pivotal, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Wynn Hill, he's the dean at BYU Idaho. Colby Ryan, big witness, Lori Vallow's son. He took the stand. Emotional testimony. David Warwick, Melanie Gibbs' husband. He was back on the stand, and he had some interesting things to say, and I'm going to, tell you why in just a minute. Let you know what you think. Let you know my thoughts about that. Brandon Boudreaux was on the stand. He also had some interesting things to say, as obviously because he was shot at and almost killed on the way home from the gym. Ryan Pillar from the Police Department in Arizona, he was on the stand. So there's 7 right there. Then Deputy Coulter Cannon from the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. That's 8 witnesses. We're not done yet. The next group that took the stand, Deputy Alyssa Greenhall with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. She was the first deputy to respond to the situation at Tammy Daybell's house the day that Tammy died. She was on the stand, and she, testified about what she saw. Coroner Brenda Dye was on the stand. Kelsey Harris was on the stand. Shanna Miller was on the stand. These are friends that knew Tammy, that worked out with her, that taught her clogging classes. Jennifer Geisler, Deputy Bruce Mattingly from the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. Spencer Cook was on the stand. Steve Schultz was on the stand. We're not done yet. By the way, this was all just the past 5 days. They were going through witnesses so fast. Then, let's keep on moving. We had Ron Arnold, the realtor. Did you see the realtor? Did you hear what the realtor said to John Pryor? We'll talk about that. Maybe not tonight, maybe tomorrow. Whitney Arnold, his wife, took the stand. Craig Huff and Richard Garner. Those are all of the witnesses from this past week. As I mentioned, we're up to 30. Here's my list in my little notebook. And you've got, I'm not going to show that. That's my cell phone number. But you've got all those people that are on there, and they're testifying. And if the prosecution goes through this many next week, they could be nearly done on their way. We had, by my count, 19 witnesses this past week. So that's a lot. That's a lot. A lot of good stuff, though. Let me tell you, I have not had a chance to go and review all of the testimony from this past week. There was a lot. And we have the live stream, and I'm going to listen to it all. I listened to a lot of it, but there were 5 key takeaways that I got based on what I read and what I watched. And let me just say, I have to give a huge shout out to Kalama, Caitlin, and Andrea, my colleagues. It is not easy to suddenly be dropped into the middle of such a comprehensive, extensive case and try to figure it out as these guys did. They did so much this week. And I mean, I've absorbed this case for 4 years, so I know when people go to the stand. I know the stories I've done. Eric Grossoth, my old colleague, and we basically did all the stories on this. If he did a story, I knew about it. If I did a story, he knew about it. We went back and forth. And so I basically asked my colleagues if they could jump in and basically write down everything that was said in court and then do a video recap at the end of the day. So they did a great job. Kudos to them. I can't thank them enough for filling in. And Jordan Wood, of course, who keeps things going behind the scenes for us to make sure that we can do these broadcasts. And I apologize. I know many of you are commenting on the sound. We're working to get that fixed beyond me, and we'll have it much better, if not by the end of this broadcast, by tomorrow. Okay, so 5 key takeaways. There were a lot of takeaways. I mean, honestly, I could have spent a night probably on each of these witnesses, but this is just what I gathered. What I gathered from watching and reading what I think is important. And some of you might wonder why. Like, for instance, the babysitter. This was a person who had very minimal interaction with Lori Vallow and her family. But think about it. Think about if you were going to school, you put an ad out on an app to babysit in your free time, or dog walk, or pick up somebody's groceries, or clean their house. I mean, whatever it might be. Imagine if you go and do this simple job, and it goes well, and then you never hear from that person again, and 4 years later, you're called to testify in a triple homicide case from that interaction. I mean, I'm sure it's just mind-blowing. And this is the second time Sydney Shank has testified. But I think what she said, I think that sometimes we might not downplay these minor quote-unquote witnesses, but these witnesses that we think, oh, it's just the dean, or it's just the principal or the teacher. It's not a huge person that knew Lori and Chad closely. It's these people that might affect the jurors even more, because what do they have to lose, or what do they have to gain? They weren't in the inner circle at all. And so them going on the witness stand and testifying to simple things such as the fact that Lori Vallow lied can actually prove a big point. It's those type of witnesses that can be memorable to the jurors. So Sydney Shank took the stand, and she said that Lori told, so the backstory is that she met Lori on an app. Lori was looking for a babysitter, and Lori asked Sydney if she'd come over. They met up. Lori said that her husband died of a heart attack. Okay, we know that's a lie, but she had used that line to even her own son, Colby. She said her daughter was going to college, and that occasionally her daughter would come home for dinner or to babysit. She came home. Tylee came home for dinner or to babysit JJ. Reasonable enough story. Sydney babysat one time. Lori then said JJ was going to his grandparents. She goes over. Lori's not there. Again, Lori doesn't work, but Lori has to hire a babysitter. And if I have my stories right, that's the day that Lori went to pick up Melanie Gibb from the airport the last weekend that JJ was alive. And then they went and had dinner and then went back, if I'm correct. I might be mixing my stories. I apologize. Don't hold me to that. I believe that Lori went to the airport or went to Idaho Falls when Sydney came to babysit. So one of the interesting things that I thought Sydney said when John Pryor questioned her, she said Lori was too comforting. Quote, "To me, throwing chairs and breaking stuff isn't an appropriate behavior. Instead of correcting that, she was just emotionally there for him and being very sweet and kind to him." Now, obviously JJ had special needs, and I believe it was later determined that he hadn't been on his medication, which may have contributed to this. But Sydney said that JJ would go play with the neighbor boy, and Sydney looked forward to babysitting again. Lori said it would happen. When Sydney followed up, Lori said, oh, JJ's going to be with his grandparents and I'm going to Hawaii. I believe she followed up a month or so later, nothing. And here she is testifying in court. Again, a minor witness in the grand scheme of things, you might think, but the fact that she was telling these stories to the principal, the babysitter, and then to the principal, too, of Kennedy Elementary. She told the same sort of stuff. Second witness that I thought was a key takeaway to keep an eye on the name wasn't on. I forgot. Where's Colby's name? Colby's name didn't appear on here, but it is Colby. And Colby said, there we go. I did it last. Colby said he last saw his family outside of a gym in Arizona. Lori said they were moving, but would be back. Tylee was crying. Lori would not say where they were going, but did say they'd be back. The last text he got from Tylee said, I love you and I love the girls, meaning Colby's daughters. And he didn't hear from his mother on Thanksgiving, and he tried to call her and she didn't answer. She did send an email after confronted about the children, and she said that Jesus was on her side. She also told Colby that Charles had a heart attack. And there was a lot of discussion about money going back and forth. Tylee would send Colby money occasionally from the sounds of it. But then once Tylee died, Lori would transfer money into Tylee's Venmo, it would then immediately get Venmo'd out to Colby. And it was thousands of dollars. Colby was asked about, did you ever talk to Charles about insurance? He said he never talked about stuff like that with Charles. He said they were always talking about money and how they didn't have money and how they needed money. Again, that's going to play into the jurors, I imagine, when it comes down to the grand theft and the insurance fraud charges, thinking about the money, that Lori was always talking about how she didn't have money, and this money's getting moved around. So I think Colby, in addition to there's so much more testimony we could talk about that you could go back and listen to, and a lot of it was emotional. They did not play the call that Colby had with his mom when she was in jail, where he called her out and said, you believe Jesus told you to do this to my brother and sister, to murder them? Tell me that, Mom. And the call where Lori cackled and laughed at him, you might remember that. We talked about that on Monday. But they didn't play that. But Colby's testimony will still be memorable. Then there was David Warwick. Now, David admitted on the stand, he's Melanie Gibbs' husband, he admitted on the stand that he has visions. And he's had visions that Russia and China will invade America. And he says he's talked to me in the past that he doesn't go around, openly saying these things, but he has spoken at conferences and at events about these things. And he got introduced to Chad through Julie Rowe, and they all met up for the first time ever in Rigby and had a meeting. And there was a lot of talk about Christ returning, the second coming, end of days, things like that. He said he felt uncomfortable with it, with a lot of it. He said that they talked about terrestrial buildings and Chad's visions. And when he came to Rexburg, Chad took him to an 80-acre property and said, don't you see the visions here? We'll be here. There will be buildings. There'll be other stuff. Don't you see it? And David didn't. He said, I saw a beautiful park. I saw a beautiful thing. And that was about it. Well, JJ saw Jordan. JJ saw David. Jordan's texting me. When David came to visit Lori and Melanie Gibb, and he stayed at Lori's townhouse. He saw JJ Sunday night around 10 or 10:30. They then recorded their podcast. He never saw JJ again. But the next morning, he said Lori was acting, quote, dramatic. Said JJ was out of control and climbing on cabinets. he asked to see JJ. Lori said that JJ had to be taken away by Alex because he was so dramatic. And recall that David Warwick had that nightmare a couple of hours before that morning, and that he then drove away and never saw JJ again. He described Chad as manipulative and a con man. That he was humble. He said he was nice. He was very meek. Sweet, I guess you could say. But he would get people, play off of their naivete, I guess you could say, play off of their ignorance or do whatever to win somebody over. And he was a con man, according to David Warwick. He says he was never comfortable with what Chad was saying. Never bought in 100%. Went out and looked at that property. The realtor, who we'll talk about probably tomorrow, who testified that he went and showed Chad and all of them these properties that Sunday morning or afternoon, David just didn't see it. It just couldn't catch the vision, just wasn't full on into it. So I think that testimony is important. Pryor really tried to discredit him, I guess you could say, in a way, by bringing some of the stuff up. I think David Warwick kind of held his own on the stand. I know a lot of people feel differently, but, he said what he had to say. And then we had Brandon Boudreaux. Now, remember, there were 19 witnesses. I'm only pulling out some key bits here and there. Brandon talked about his wife, Melanie. Early on, when kind of this whole religious thing started with her, he said she wanted to go to the temple every day. Now, if you're not familiar with those in the LDS faith, going to the temple once a month, it's not like going to church every week. Most people might, or some people might try to go once a month. Some might try to go once a week. Every day would be excessive for many. And then she started going to these meetings, and she came home and said she wanted to get a $10,000 in food storage. Then Brandon's grandpa unexpectedly died, and she did not want to go to the funeral. She did not want the whole family to go to the funeral. And this was after Melanie began spending more and more time with Lori and Alex. And I know many of you are saying, is Melanie going to testify? I imagine she's on the list. She came to Idaho last year to testify. She was set to testify, and they didn't call her. Her attorney afterwards told me that she would be ready to take the stand if they needed her to, but she never did. And her husband did, and Ian, and he said some things, but Melanie did not. Will it be different this time? I have no idea. But I'm sure she's on the witness list. So then Brandon spoke about the traumatic Jeep shooting. His word, he called it traumatic. He's coming home from the gym. He had just moved. He just separated from his wife. No one knew where he lived except a select group of people, basically his wife and the neighbors who helped him move in. Comes home from the gym, gets shot at, recognizes that it's a Jeep, somebody in a Jeep that shot at him, Charles's Jeep. He follows the Jeep after the shooting. He said, I didn't realize what I was doing. He was on the phone with 911. He's on the way. By the way, this case is still pending in Arizona. This is why Lori is down there for this specific case, along with the shooting of Charles. So we will learn more about this situation when that one goes to trial. He says as Melanie got more and more into these teachings and these obscure type of, prophecies, doctrines, whatever you want to call them, he Googled Chad's name and learned about Tammy, and that's around the same time he discovered that the kids were missing. He talked about JJ. He got emotional talking about JJ and Tylee. He knew them. JJ loved to hang out with his cousin, Brandon's son. And he, again, didn't hold back. So Brandon is a key takeaway I think is important. And then there's the last one I want to touch on tonight out of the key takeaways is the coroner from Fremont County, Brenda Dye. She's testified before. We actually interviewed her. I personally did not. My colleague Rhett Nelson did a couple of months ago. She said that this case still gives her nightmares. She admitted on the stand, too, just a few days ago, that if she had had more training, she would have done things differently. And In Idaho, anyone can be a coroner if you're elected. It's an elected position. You need no medical training. I could be elected coroner this year if people elected me. And then I'd go get training. Then I would determine how people died. Many states have the coroner system. Many states have the medical examiner system. Utah has the medical examiner system. The coroner determines the cause of death for almost every death that happens outside of a hospital and some that happen inside of a hospital. But a doctor can determine, cause and manner of death, and so can a coroner. Brenda Dye testified when she showed up at Chad Daybell's house, pink foam was coming out of Tammy's mouth and the body had been moved. Even though Chad Daybell said she was dead. Well, how do dead bodies move? And Brenda Dye asked that to Chad. Chad said, well, he thinks when he pulled the sheet, because they were in bed together, when he pulled the sheet, she may have rolled off. So Garth and Chad moved the body, and it was moved. Brenda noticed a very deep bruise on Tammy's arm. She said that all of her lungs were healthy, very healthy, except all of her organs were very healthy, except for her lungs. There was a lot of foam in the lungs, and no autopsy was done. Emma, Chad's daughter, insisted she did not want an autopsy. Brenda Dye did not say that Chad was pressuring her to do an autopsy or not. He didn't want one, but it wasn't like, no, you're not doing it. Like, there wasn't really anything suspicious. Brenda Dye had just been elected. She was a new coroner, and autopsies are expensive. I believe at the time, Fremont County only had it in their budget to do like 1.5 autopsies a year, just because they're expensive. And if you order them, it's, several $1,000s. And Brenda Dye did go back and change the cause of death. She amended it after the autopsy was done by the medical examiner in Utah. So that is what she testified of. Now, those are just some really brief glimpses here and there of some key takeaways that I noticed from the past week. But there are so many more I want to get into tomorrow night. And then, of course, next week, Monday. And then Tuesday, there is no court. There was a deputy who was shot and killed. Terrible situation last week in Ada County. His funeral is on Tuesday. And I would imagine that all of the deputies that are helping at the trial would want to go. I don't blame them one bit. Or at least provide backup. I mean, there's going to be a big event. And so there's going to be no court on Tuesday. But I'll still do a Courtroom Insider because I have a lot to get caught up on. And I hope you do too. So those are some takeaways I noticed through the week. Just a quick skim through. We'll get deeper tomorrow. But what I do want to show you now as we kind of pivot, one of the main reasons I like to do Courtroom Insider is to remember JJ and Tylee and Tammy and Charles, the victims, those people that are affected by this. And not only them, but their families who are still here and trying to cope with all of this. And today, after years of waiting to do a vigil, a memorial, I guess you could say, Larry and Kay Woodcock held a celebration of life for JJ and Tylee at the Colonial Theater in Idaho Falls. And I think I showed you the program earlier. This was the program. They had Larry Woodcock spoke, shared some great stories about JJ. The Brian Wood of Wood Funeral Home conducted the service. The Rexburg Children's Choir, they played a video of them singing Give Me Jesus with Fernando Ortega. He's a popular Christian singer. Written tribute by Zach Cox was read. Megan Connor sang several songs. Brandon Boudreau, who wrote a poem, that was read at the event. And so was some media people, including yourself. We were asked to record a quick little snippet of what this case has been like covering it. And so they played that, and that was very, very nice. And then Pastor Larry Cudmore shared a spiritual message at the end. And it was a great service. That one of the things I liked the most, and you can go watch it, by the way. We have it all if you missed it. It's on our YouTube channel. But I did want to show you what it was like when you walked into the Colonial Theater. This is an old ancient theater, over 100 years old in Idaho Falls. It's been refurbished. It's a beautiful venue, but they set it up really nice in the foyer when you walked in, and I'll just show you what that looked like. So here in the lobby of the Colonial Theater, they have set up a bunch of different photos, and you can see there's some napkins that people have made, Love Always Wins, some drawings of JJ and Tylee, the signs that went up when they were missing, Justice for JJ and Tylee. Here's a beautiful picture, Those We Love Don't Go Away. They walk beside us every day. A lot of these things have been sent to the Woodcocks and other family members over the course of the past 4 years. Jordan, let's show this JJ pillow that you can see that was made for him. And then if we head over to this table, there's some beautiful seashells, pictures of JJ and Tylee on the beach. Tylee loved the beach, loved to be in Hawaii. And this has the theme that I'm sure she would love herself. Pictures of the family, seashells. There's flower arrangements that loved ones have sent. JJ loved his candy. And you can see they have a candy table here. There's the colors that we've come to know JJ and Tylee for, the blue and the purple, along with some Hershey Kisses and other bags of candy. People who came here to the memorial walked into two beautiful pictures of JJ and Tylee, and here is an M&M jacket. This was JJ's. We've seen and heard about how much JJ loves M&Ms, loved M&Ms, and how his grandpa Larry would give him those M&Ms, and they have that jacket here on display. And then we'll hit up one more table over here before we head inside. So many photos. I wish we could spend, a minute on each one, but just some wonderful memories of these beautiful children and the lives they lived with their family members and their loved ones. And that's what the whole purpose of today is all about, is to remember them. So, great way to start in there. And then Larry and Kay greeted everybody who wanted to come in and say anything to them. I was able to interview several people, including one woman. I did not interview her, but she came from Tennessee in her camper. She wanted to be there. One woman made sure to be there at 7 a.m. She was worried she wouldn't get a seat. These are people that have waited for years to say hello to the Woodcocks, to let them know how much this story has affected them. We had, I think, around 5,000 to 6,000 people watching at a time on East Idaho News. So it really did and has impacted people, along with all of you. And I spoke with a couple of people, just some random people, you could say, and I just wanted to get their take on what is it about this story that has captured their attention, and why they decided to spend a beautiful, cloudy Saturday in Idaho Falls at this vigil, at this memorial, celebration of life, we should say. And here's what they had to say. Why did you come here to the memorial today?
We are friends with Larry and Kay, and we feel close to this case because of their grandson, JJ. We also have a son who is autistic, and we can definitely relate to that.
And you guys drove how many hours to be here?
So we drove from Utah. We're originally from New York, but we lived in Utah for a long time, so we all drove a 3-hour drive this time, yeah.
And you've been following the case since the beginning?
My wife has been following the case from the very beginning, the very, very, very beginning. I kind of jumped in on it probably halfway, but put in a lot of hours since. So.
And what is it about the story, the situation, the case that's captured your attention?
It's just, it's sad. The whole situation is sad. Again, relating back to JJ, I know there's a lot of people that lost their lives, but we relate to JJ. I relate to JJ. I see him on TV. I see my son. And I just kind of gravitated to that because we get it. We understand. And it's an unfortunate situation.
Anything you want to add?
Larry and Kay, we love you. And they are America's grandparents, and I hope everything goes well, ends well as well, and hopefully we can all put this to an end soon and try to live normal lives after.
Georgia, where are you from again?
Montana.
And why did you decide to drive down here today?
Because I've been following this story since the beginning, and I had the day, and I really wanted to come and just be a part of this and show my respects and just be here for the family members and for friends and such that showed up, and be a part of it, because I feel like I've been following it the whole time, and I've been watching you actually covering the story. So I thought, well, I'm going to go over. And
What have you thought when you walked in and see all the photos of the kids?
incredible. You know, it really, it shows you who they are, you know, their personalities, and just there's so much to them, and there's not now. But yeah. So, but it was wonderful to come in and actually see who they were. You know, it just puts things in perspective when you're actually able to come over and take a look for yourself.
Carrie, why did you come today?
I've been following this case since day one when we heard that the kids were missing. I had a couple kids that were the same age as Tylee and JJ, and it made me wonder why a mom, you know, would not explain where her kids were and show proof of life. And I just kept following it because it's, you know, happened pretty close to my hometown. I don't live in Rexburg, I live in Ida Falls, but it just brought me in really close, and I just followed it every day.
What did you think walking in today and seeing all of these pictures?
It is very beautiful. I think what got me the most was seeing JJ's M&M jacket. That one brought tears to my eyes because it's here, and I've seen it in pictures over the last few years, and that was really a sad moment for me. But
And what is it, you mentioned you have kids at JJ and Tylee's age. Is that kind of what drew you in, and the fact that it was local? I mean,
It
in
is.
any other parts of the story that really just kind of captured you?
that she could be on the beach in Hawaii and not even have a care in the world, and while she's getting married again, while everybody's looking for her kids. And then seeing you, you know, asking and confronting Lori and Chad, you know, where are the kids at? And I'm just like, okay, I knew that it wasn't going to be a good outcome, because who doesn't show proof of life of their kids and where they were?
April, why did you come here today?
Oh, to this memorial for these beautiful children. It's just something I've been following for years.
What is it about the whole story that captures your attention?
Oh, just how they were missing, and then how they were found, and how did this happen? Just, I don't know, just their pictures just captivated me.
Those are just a few of the people that were there. I was able to meet so many wonderful people. If you were there, thank you for saying hello and watching this broadcast as we, you know, go through this case and this trial. And it was nice. I think that was a big piece, I would imagine, in Larry and Kay's mind about this entire case, that they've had the memorial service here, where the children were found, where the investigation kicked off, if they've had it. And when the Chad Daybell trial is over, then their Idaho chapter's done. Unless if Chad Daybell is sentenced to death, or there's a major appeal and it's overturned. But basically, the Idaho chapter is finalized after 4.5, 5 years, which crazy. I constantly think back to the day when I was told, I believe it was Rob Wood told me early on, that, Nate, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint, and definitely has been a marathon. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. I do want to show you a really amazing gift that somebody sent me while I was away. And I thought about, it's so appropriate for this program, for Courtroom Insider, don't you think? It's from a local guy named Stephen Baldwin. He said, Nate, I made this gavel and its striker from walnut. Look at this. He made this. He said, making small wooden things has become a hobby and provides relaxations. My wife and I appreciate some nice words. We wanted to show our appreciation. Your friend, even though we've never met, Stephen Baldwin. Stephen, this is amazing. I told my wife, Erica, I'm like, maybe I should start Courtroom Insider with this every night. Courtroom Insider, now in session. And then at the end, we're dismissed. Although I don't want to use it. I want to keep it as a decoration. But Stephen, this is beautiful. Thank you. I think all of us, hopefully that are following the case, can appreciate justice, can appreciate when judges extend mercy, but also justice. And the legal system and the justice system, and even though it grinds so slow sometimes, looking at this will remind me of how out of all the places in the world, and believe me, I was in Jamaica last week, and I don't know how their justice system works, but America's justice system is pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and I appreciate that gift so much, so thank you. I haven't even responded to him, but I'm going to send him a message. So, Stephen, if you're watching, thank you. I just got that a few hours ago when I stopped by my office, and I appreciate that. I'm headed out to Boise tomorrow, so we'll be back for Courtroom Insider tomorrow night, and I'll be at the trial every day until the end. No more vacations, no more weddings, no more obstacles unless something unexpectedly comes up. So you can plan on that. Now, if it's okay with you, I want to show you a few vacation photos, but you could turn it off now. For those of you that don't care, that just want to tune in for the case, that's all I got for you tonight. There's just so much that I could get to today, but obviously I was at the vigil, and kudos to all of the people that put that together. Brian Wood from Wood Funeral Home. But I'll have much more tomorrow. But I just want to show you some pictures because so many of you have asked if that's okay. Erica's sister Darcy flew out from Virginia to be with. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. That's your warning, because some of you email me and say, Nate, I just want to hear about the case. I don't care about your family. I don't care about your travels. I don't care about anything but the case. So I'm telling you now, if you want to turn it off, I won't be offended. It's okay. There we go. Fair warning. Nobody email me. Darcy flew out to watch our kids, and she made it, even though there were major flight issues. Erica and I flew out to Jamaica Monday morning, very early, but we had a 24-hour layover in Dallas. We could either have the layover in Dallas or in Jamaica, and because of a bunch of other circumstances, we chose Dallas. We had never been to Dallas before. I had been to Dallas. I went a couple weeks ago to shoot something with Dr. Phil, but I had never been there before, and so we actually had a day to explore, and we ended up at a mall, and look what we found, Potato Corner. And I've been saying this for ages, that in Idaho Falls, or eastern Idaho, someone needs to open a potato restaurant where all they serve is potatoes. And at this Potato Corner, they had French fries. We didn't try it, but they had French fries with a bunch of different toppings and meats and stuff like that. Big hit, big hit. So that was one of the first places we went to see, and we loved it. Then we flew to Jamaica on Tuesday, and we got there, and we were in Negril, which we landed in Montego Bay and had to go to Negril. And I'm trying to not reveal too many details. Again, our friends are very, very, very private. And so it was a no-phone wedding. Phones were not allowed at the wedding. We had to leave them in our rooms, but every day there was different events. Like on day one, there was a welcome barbecue. But we finally made it it was about a 2-hour drive to get to where we were going. And my goodness, the people that drive in Jamaica are just so brave. Because if you've been there, wow. I mean, the roads are thin. And I told Erica, we'll just rent a car. I'm glad we didn't rent a car. But we got to our place. The couple had... it was not really a resort, but it was a place that had like 6 villas or 7 villas, and we each had a villa. Not each of us, but like Erica and I shared a villa with another couple who we knew from Virginia really well. She ended up, the wife was not able to come, but the husband was, and so we had a great time. And we walked in the room, and there was a mosquito net. Well, first of all, I didn't know what this was. See that net thing hanging from the ceiling? That's a mosquito net. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a fancy decoration, but no, it was a mosquito net. And then that was our view out the back. Like the beach was right there. And I have to tell you, we slept with that mosquito net one night, and it was awful because I was getting tangled in it. My foot was out, and then I'm paranoid I'm going to get bit by a mosquito. I did get bit by mosquitoes, but I told Erica the next night, I'm like, I cannot sleep with this net. We have to put it up. I think it's much easier if you're a single sleeper. So let me know if you've ever slept in a mosquito net, because I don't know what the secret is. I'm just grateful that I don't have to do that every night. The first night they had a welcome barbecue, and it was, so there was, the wedding was 4/24/24, and there were 42 guests, so 24 reversed. Pretty cool. And I tried curried goat. No, it wasn't curried. What was it? It was something goat, and that's that the green stuff on there. And then jerk chicken, which was amazing. And there was rice. It was traditional Jamaican food. I'm going to ask Erica what kind of goat that was. Shoot.
Hello.
Hey, honey, what kind of goat did we have? Was it curried?
Curried goat.
Oh, it was curried. Okay, thanks. Bye. So it was curried goat. I don't know if I'll have it again. The jerk chicken was delicious. I think I had jerk chicken every day we were there. It was our anniversary the day we arrived, and they surprised us with a beautiful cake, which was so kind for them to do. And they did trivia. They did How Well Do You Know the Couple, and another game of, how many guests here do you know? List them out. And Erica, we won an iPad. That was one of the prizes. So the kids were so happy when he came home with an iPad. The next day, sorry, I feel like I'm sitting here, travel log. Erica and I went kayaking, no filter on this pic. And that water was amazing. It was probably the most gorgeous water I have ever seen. And you could walk out for such a long time in the water, and it was so green and so warm. The weather was really hot and humid, but it was so warm. Now, I was on vacation, kind of, wedding vacation, but I knew, and I was thinking about all of you. I seriously was. I had to be talked down from doing Courtroom Insider live from Jamaica every night, but I did watch. And there I am on the beach, watching the trial. I shared that on my Facebook earlier. As they're setting up the wedding tent, you can see over there, and people are walking along the beach. And I appreciate all of you keeping me updated, sending me updates from the trial and letting you know what John Pryor is saying and what the prosecution's doing and what certain witnesses are saying where. So it was great. The wedding was very casual. This was what Erica and I wore. Those were the colors for the wedding. And it was outside, and it was in a beautiful, lush garden. And it was short. It was 30 minutes, which is amazing. And it was just beautiful. And right after the wedding, we all walked out to the beach. They had a happy hour, and then they had the wedding reception with a dinner. And we watched the sunset on this beautiful place on earth, and it was just incredible. They asked me to MC and say a few words, and I did, but it was a night we will never forget. And then they danced, and I gotta tell you, I busted a move out there on that dance floor. They had cupcakes, they had cookies. It was great. The next day, Erica and I back on the water. There's me on a kayak. I forgot my razor. I always forget something when I travel, and I went the longest. I went 5 days without shaving, and I normally, when I was on TV, I had to shave daily, and I don't really have to now, but I kind of grew my facial hair out. Shaved today. And there's Erica on a paddleboard. She's so talented at those things. I told her we need to get the kayaks for this summer. And then we did a couple of other touristy things. Excuse me. And I've had this cough lingering for weeks. On our last night, Thursday night, we went to a place called the Ricks, which has incredible cliff diving. And they had this sign, Peace, Love, Ricks. So I'm doing a heart sign. And there's Erica. And then we watched, they say this is one of the best places in the world to watch a sunset. So I did a time lapse of the sun setting from up on top of this deck. And this is about 30 minutes of video compressed into 28 seconds. And you can see there goes the sun down. over the ocean for another day. And anyway, it was an incredible week. I normally, would not leave such an important story unless it was a big deal. And I actually had some of you email me and say, I can't believe you left. What you have been covering this for so long. It is your obligation to be there. And to you, I say, no, it's not. I'm not going to miss such a dear friend's wedding to sit in a courtroom. I do love my job, don't get me wrong. And I've missed a lot of stuff covering these trials. And I do believe, as a reporter, it's my job to be there. It is. And I want to be there, and I want to share it with you. But there was a pretty good reason why I was gone last week. So thank you for being patient and putting up with my absence, as my colleagues did a great job. And you know what? I forgot to do questions. So if you hung on, you get a bonus. You get questions. The people that logged off earlier don't. So that was our trip. We almost, last night, so we flew in yesterday. We woke up at 6, got to the airport, and hung out till noon when we took off. And I did watch a lot of yesterday as I was at the airport. And then we got to Dallas, and geez, we almost missed the flight. First of all, they pushed the flight back, then they moved the flight, and then they said, will you take money to wait? And then they said, we can fly you out today. I'm like, I got to get to the memorial. Anyway, grateful to be back. So nice to be back with the kids. They were so excited to see us. We were excited to see them. And I'm excited to answer your questions. Thank you for allowing me to get a little personal there so I could share some trip with you. Okay. Hi, Nate. By the way, these are a collection of questions you all have sent me over the past week or so. I've just been building them in a doc, so I'm going to go through these as best I can. Some of them might have already been answered by now. If they have, I'll try to let you know. A blonde lady entered and left with Colby when he testified. Looked like maybe Kelsey. Do you know who he was with? Thanks, Irene. I don't believe it was Kelsey, his wife, but they have victim advocates who he may have been with, or someone from the prosecutor's office, and they basically are there to help you if you have questions, help explain the legal system to you. Larry and Kay have one who's there, and they, that's their job. Their job is to be a victim advocate. Colby has publicly announced that he and Kelsey are expecting a baby boy, and they are together. I know many of you have asked that, but they have posted it and publicly announced that, and so congratulations to them on their upcoming baby boy. Hi, Nate. My question, when Lindsay Blake was questioning Agent Hart, and it came to where she asked who Kay was to JJ, he said grandmother. Wouldn't she be an aunt because her and Charles are brother and sister? Thanks, Dawn. Yes, and yes, she's both. So JJ was born to Kay's son, who called into the vigil today, memorial, and from prison, from jail where he is at, and read a little message, sent a little message. But I'm going to try to pull up the family tree here so I can explain this. But Kay then adopted or took custody of JJ. And if you look over here, here's Kay and grandmother JJ to JJ. But Charles is Kay's brother, and Charles then adopted JJ. So even though her son had JJ, that would make her the grandmother. Her brother, Charles, then adopted JJ. That would also make her the aunt. So she's the aunt and the grandmother. Make sense? Hopefully that was clear. Hi, Nate. I've been following on YouTube since the Lori days. I have a thought and a question. Let's say Chad's kids testify and say they are witnesses of their mom's declining health, and the jury decides Chad is not guilty of killing Tammy. Technically, that would mean the jury believes Tammy died from health complications. So what would that mean for Lori? Because then, on one case, the narrative is Lori conspired to kill Tammy, and the other narrative is Tammy died of health issues. I hope that makes sense, Tamika. Interesting point, Tamika. So Lori was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder for Tammy. If Chad is found not guilty of conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy, then the juries have said that Lori was the only one who conspired to kill her. Or at least Chad was not in the conspiracy. That it was just Lori and or Alex and or whoever else, just not Chad. And that could happen. If Chad could also be found guilty of the conspiracy, but not the actual murder, which Lori was not found guilty of the murder because she wasn't charged with the murder. She was just charged with the conspiracy. So does that make sense? So yeah, then at the end of the day, if that were to happen, you would say, all right, well, this jury, the case was stronger here, or at least not stronger, but the case here proved that Lori was involved in Tammy's death, but this case did not. So it's a possibility. I mean, it's a possibility that maybe Chad isn't found guilty on the kid's murder, but just Tammy's. I mean, I don't know, but it could happen. When they release a witness, this is from Shandy, how come they can call them back, such as Hart? The state and defense said they are calling him back on the stand at a later date. Why don't they just question them now? Do they have to wait until different things are brought up before they can question him about everything? No, they don't, because they are the prosecution's witness. They are calling the witness. They can ask the witness anything pertaining to their knowledge of the case. That's why some witnesses, like the detectives, go super long. They have the knowledge of everything. Some witnesses are super short. Like, you wouldn't ask the babysitter about the remains found in the backyard unless she witnessed it, unless she got a call out, unless she was directly involved in it. Some witnesses they release. They get them up there, they ask them the questions, the defense doesn't plan to call them again, they get the testimony out of the way, they're done. Some witnesses they do want to recall because, or at least leave the door open, like Vinny Kayakamanu. He's been called twice now. He could get called again, a third time, because you don't know what else is going to come up from someone else's testimony where you might need to get that witness back on the stand to clarify something, to have it come up. Plus, the defense can call whoever they want again for their side to try to bring up different issues in relation to it. So John Pryor is holding a lot more people under the witness subpoena, if that's what it's called, versus the attorneys in Lori's case. They let a lot more of them go, and they didn't call anyone. But John Pryor likely will, and we'll see how that goes. Do you know if Colby and Kelsey have reunited? Yeah, I mentioned that. I mentioned that one. Good evening, Nate. Stacy from New York. I'd like to thank you for your coverage. I followed you. I wanted to ask, will the text messages from after the kids were killed and Tammy was killed come in at a later time? The coverage you presented when I watched ended the text messages in August, which is prior to Lori and the kids moving to Rexburg. I would think so. I would imagine if they have them and if they pertain to the case. I noticed that when the officer was on the stand a few weeks ago, there were a couple of text messages sent the night Tammy died, but they don't know what those were. All they know is they were sent. They were not able to retrieve them. So I think any text messages that were sent in August, after August or whatever, that they can retrieve that pertain to the case, they'll put on and they'll have a witness talk about. Which again, they could call back some of the witnesses who have talked about the texts and have them present more. I guess the other theory is too, if you have 12 months of texts, you don't want to unload them all at once. You might want to wait, or you might want to get them all done. I guess it all depends on their strategy. When someone is subpoenaed in court, do they know the day they will testify? How much notice do they get if they aren't told an exact date? Where do they hang out while waiting to be called as a witness? Julie Jones. Hi, Julie Jones. So, good question. I think that they are given an idea. Based on witnesses I've spoken to, they're given an idea of date range, maybe, of like, I happen to know that someone will get called next Wednesday. Might be Tuesday, though. So they're going to bring them into Idaho probably Tuesday morning. They'll spend the night. They'll be at a hotel. The state will cover their costs of food, of travel, of hotel. They'll have an idea kind of how long they'll be on the stand. Obviously, you can't predict what the defense is going to do. They'll get questioned, and then they'll leave, and they can go back home. Now, if the defense decides to call them in 3 weeks, the defense has to pay to bring them up and have them testify. There is some rooms right outside the courtroom and in other parts of the courthouse where witnesses wait, and they can't discuss the case with other witnesses, so they'll be separated. They can't be in a room together. And then they'll kind of know, they're obviously going to know that day you're going to be on the stand. That's why some days court might end early because the next witness isn't there. They're not preparing for the next day, and the prosecutor doesn't know how long the testimony is going to go. So they might say, oh, well, we'll put Nate Eaton on the stand Tuesday afternoon, and if all the Tuesday witnesses finish before lunch, I might get moved up. So it's kind of a shuffling act of all of them, and they have to be sure they play it out all right. So, they don't know. They don't know, at least in the beginning, a specific date, as far as I know, but as the trial goes on. And they could reshuffle things. I know of a witness who was supposed to testify last week, and it didn't happen. And they're going to be later in May. So that's just how it is. Regarding the Chad Daybell live updates, I'd rather know if any of Chad Daybell's children are attending the trial, rather than what color of shirt and tie he's wearing. Thank you, Denise. Okay, Denise, if his kids come, we'll tell you. They haven't come. They're witnesses. John Pryor has said they're going to be witnesses, at least 3 of them. They would be allowed to come every day if they want, because they're under the exclusionary rule. They could come. I can promise you we will tell you when they're there. We report on what the defendants wear. I did it every day with Lori because all of you want to know. I especially did it with Lori because there were no cameras in there. And you could say a lot by appearances. A lot of people get very prettied up and combed hair. Chad Daybell has looked in that shirt and tie every single day with the combed hair. You try to get your defendant to look as normal as possible. And we often sometimes judge people by how they look. And that's what the jurors are looking at. So that's why we say what they wear. I promise you that you can read that line and then just keep going, and we'll give you more information. It's okay, I promise you. But I'm sorry that you don't like we report what they're wearing. Can you tell me if you have known about Chad and Lori wanting to put a home on his property where the kids were buried? Amy Skinner. Yeah, so that came out, I believe, yesterday at court, that Chad Daybell was working with a realtor to quickly have a mobile home built, or a movable home quickly built on a pad on his property. Probably where those kids were buried, above on the ground. I had heard that. Yes, I had heard that before, and I had heard that he was looking at getting a cement pad measured and put out there. So yeah, I have heard that before, and that he was quickly trying to do that. But I don't know if we've heard that in court before this week. Nate, I hope you're having a great vacation. Thank you. This is from Kelly. When you come back and do Courtroom Insider, can you please talk about the cross by John Pryor to Detective Kaya Kamanu? Specifically the emails to Mark about his computer being cursed, and Tammy telling Mark, quote, "We cleared you, and we will be doing that more often." Was she part of Chad's culty thing? Kelly. I have to tell you, Kelly, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. I was shocked. I had not heard that before. That is some of the new details that came out in this trial. In fact, I was on the beach when a friend of mine at another news network texted. I'm going to tell you what she said. And then she had me all... She texted, I'm in total shock right now. Total shock. I said, okay, fill me in. I'm on vacation. What happened? She said, Nate, Tammy was in on rating people light and dark and casting out spirits. All 5 of the children were in on it. There are chats and emails. They were literally teaching Mark about the evil he had inside him while he was on a mission, and Tammy was working on clearing it all out. I'm seriously completely in shock right now. These are emails and chats from Chad and Tammy's account that nobody has seen before. My mouth has been wide open for like 10 minutes. So yes, Kelly, I was surprised. I think many of us were, and I'm going to dive deep into that tomorrow night. I didn't have time to go through and listen to the testimony today. And also, one thing that came up that I didn't touch on tonight, the jury did not hear, but this was in an open court hearing, and we have the video, where someone, a coworker, overheard Tammy say, "My husband thinks I'm a zombie, but I don't think so." That's the first I had heard, and many other people close to Tammy had heard her discuss the zombie term. And there were 3 new instances that came to light of witnesses the prosecutor wanted to bring in. One was about the zombie. I forget what the other 2 were. The Judge Boyce ruled against having 2 of them come in because they said it was too much of hearsay. But the third, I believe he is allowing in. So we're gonna go into that tomorrow. I hope you'll watch. We'll go into that more, along with more of the testimony from the past week. And the realtor. Did you see the realtor yesterday? Friday, yeah. Where John Pryor, one of the most memorable moments of the trial is when John Pryor asked the realtor, how big is the property? And he said, well, I don't know, you own it. And he's true. Pryor owns the property. So anyway, that's what we've got here. Thank you again. It's so good to be back. I hope that you've enjoyed tonight, despite the mic issues. And thanks for letting me get a little personal with our vacation. But we're home. We're back in the saddle. Probably another 5 weeks, maybe more, 4 weeks maybe. But we'll be doing this every night. Join me tomorrow night, 6:30 Mountain Time. I'll be back in Boise, ready for the trial, ready to go on Monday morning. Appreciate you being here. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.